Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Pamani. I hope you're all doing good, my dear friends. Today we have many articles to go through. The most important one that I find is this one, Ending TB. Of course, we have some other articles as well. Like these three articles are associated with section 377. We will have a detailed discussion on this thing. But before that, let's go through this severe health, or one of the most severest health crisis that India is battling against is this tuberculosis. Now, I have got a couple of important facts for you guys, and I would really reckon you guys to remember these facts, because every year, you find at least one question based on health in your mains examination, and in your prelims as well, you find at least one question. Now, TB is a big topic. It is going to be discussed in United Nations General Assembly as well. So there are high chances that in upcoming prelims, you may find a question associated with TB, a factual sort of one, or how it is, why is it infectious or not, whether it is caused by virus or bacteria. These are some basic things. But as far as this article is concerned, and if we look at TB from this public health issue point of view, then we find that every 3 minutes, 2 Indians die because of TB. TB is killing 2 Indians every 3 minutes. So that means that 180 seconds that you have in 3 minutes, of course, every 90 seconds you find one person is being eliminated because of TB. The other thing is, TB is eliminating one person. At the end of the day, if we calculate this maths that we find that 1,000 plus people die every day in our country just because of TB. So it's clearly visible that it is one of the most dangerous disease that we find in our country. The sad thing is that India has the highest TB burden in the world. If you convert this into figures, then you find that out of 100 patients in the world, 20 are in India. So that is 1/5 of world's TB burden is on India. The other thing is that when it comes to multi-drug resistant TB, which is a bit more severe, a bit more harmful, a bit more dangerous, a bit more difficult to conquer, again, the largest number of people with this multi-drug resistant TB are living in our country. So you can see clearly that this is a big challenge for us. Now, there are multiple challenges that we are facing at present as far as this TB control is associated, or eliminating TB is concerned. Now, the reason why we find this Ending TB article in today's The Hindu is because it has a very important relationship with current affairs, or things that are going to take place in a forthcoming future. On September 26th of 2018, United Nations General Assembly hopefully will for the first time address TB in a high-level meeting, and there are high chances that United Nations General Assembly will release a political declaration on TB. Now, draft of this political declaration is out, and there are many experts who are raising, you can say, red flags. And this is right as well, because what we find is that in this political declaration draft that is out, there are some omissions. There are a few things that are not taken into consideration. Or you can also say that this political declaration on TB is a little bit diluted, and a little bit of dilution as well is not going to help us to eliminate TB from the world. Now, the global target of eliminating TB, and again, a very important fact that you need to keep in your mind, and the year as well, is 2035. This is global target. So by 2035, the world will be free from tuberculosis. And when we specifically, break it down, this particular definition, we find that elimination means reducing the number to 1 case per million people per year. So that means every year in 365 days, out of 10 lakh people you have, right, only max one person will get affected by TB or will catch TB. So this is what we call elimination. It's not zero. Out of 10 lakh people, if one person is affected by, every year, if one person is catching TB throughout the world, then this will be considered as elimination of TB, which is, of course, reasonably all right. Zero is, means, of course, we need a perfection on this one, but, one is, again, not bad compared to what we are going through at present. Now, of course, logical it's very logical, it's a matter of common sense that the only way through which we can achieve this target is we need to have best medicines. We need to have medicines that are creating minimum or zero side effects, medicines that are easily available to each and every one of us, whether we are living in a country that is top 10 country in the world, or whether you are living in a country that is at the bottom of this table, whether you are living in a society that has full of paradox, like country like India. You have richest people who have access to best medical facilities, and then you have a big population, they don't have this sort of facilities. So it will be impossible without universal, equitable access to affordable quality TB diagnostics as well as treatment for anyone who needs it. I'm sure we all have encountered, or we have watched this advertisement or these campaigns in which we have very famous face of our country, Amitabh Bachchan, is talking about elimination, this war that India is against this TB, that TB versus India, that's a sort of tagline. And the main, if you analyze this advertisement or this campaign, you will realize that the big problem in our country is not just related with the medicine, right? The big problem that we are going through is gaps, right? When I say gaps, I mean to say that I think that you have to go through some 6-month course to eliminate TB. If you are affected by TB, then you have to go through this medicine course that you have to take a couple of medicines every single day. Nowadays it is just one medicine, if I'm not wrong, but anyways, you have to take a couple of medicines, roughly speaking, and you have to make sure that you are not missing even a single day for 6 months, and that's it. Then you are protected, then you are done with TB. But the problem is that what happens most of the time in our country is that people, they are being provided with medicine, they have to go for regular routine checkups and things like that. But once they feel that they are all right, then they will stop taking this medicine, thinking that now they are fine. But what happens is that TB can resurrect, or it can hit that person again, and this time it can become a bit more severe. And because of this thing, we have this highest, you can say, population of largest number of people living with multi-drug resistant TB in our country. Now, as far as this dilution or this omission of a couple of items are concerned, it is associated with this trade related aspects of intellectual property rights and this Doha Declaration. So if I talk about these two items in a nutshell, basically, let's take example of Ebola, right? I'm giving you a hypothetical example. Just imagine that USA has, Ebola was a sort of a big health issue for the world. WHO declared it a big public issue or world issue, health issue, back in 2015, if I'm not wrong, but somewhere around 2015, 2016. But anyways, the main thing here in this our hypothetical example is that just imagine a couple of African countries, right, are battered by this Ebola, and at that time we find that USA has got a medicine, right, that can definitely kill Ebola virus. But now you have this situation where thousands of Africans are dying because of lack of medicine in Africa, and USA is having medicine, but the company of this USA, this private company that has invented this medicine, will ask for, of course, they are in business for maximizing profits, isn't it? So they are going to patent it, and they are going to, because there is no competition, they are going to place it very expensive. They are going to make sure that in a shortest possible time they can recover this R&D and other sort of expenses or investment that they have done for this product. So it's quite again very sort of you can say a very logical thing. That's what the private businesses will seek for, isn't it? But the thing is, when you look at it from WHO's point of view, from United Nations point of view, from human rights point of view, right, then we find that this is not going to be fair. So what this trade related and this Doha Declaration are trying to achieve is that if a disease has become a sort of public health emergency, then a country can produce a sort of copy of that medicine just to look after the public of or citizens, so there is no harm in it. This sort of exemptions are given, taking in mind this welfare, nature, welfare state, or this nature of countries like welfare state, and also humanitarian angle and other angles. Stopping this lack of because TB is infectious disease and other Ebola and other sort of diseases. If you don't rein in, then if you don't control them, then they are going to impact each and every one of us around the world. Because of this, nowadays we have this very good transportation facilities. People travel from one part of the world to other part, and because of this thing, we find that these diseases are getting more global and global. So our stand against these diseases should be global as well. We have in our country, because India is a country that is, as you know, the fact now, right, the most affected country by TB. So we have set ourselves a target that by 2025 we are going to get rid of TB from our country. So you can see here there is a big gap of 10 years. The world is going to get rid of this TB by 2035. We are trying to achieve it by 2025, which is not bad. There is no harm in keeping or dreaming big, but we have to work for it as well, and for that we have to provide affordable quality drugs and standards and medical facilities and other things. Back in March 2013, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, or Government of India, inaugurated this Delhi End TB Summit, and here we talked about initiatives that we are going to take or we have taken under this RNTCP. Remember the full form, it is Revised National Tuberculosis Control Program. We are talking about free drugs and free checkups and support for patients and looking after them. If they are admitted, then their cost will be looked after by government. Now we are going to have this Ayushman Bharat as well. Then we have this database will be used. Private hospitals, they are supposed to provide data to government so that government can analyze this data. Big data analytics and other sort of technologies will be used to learn more about TB. And as far as this dilution of these items are concerned, see, India is one of the most important player as far as generic medicines are concerned, and it's a big global player as well, very important global player. So it is on us, right? We are a developing country, we are a TB affected country. There are other countries that are affected by TB, so we should share this sort of pain with them. We should understand their pain. As a country, India, as a global leader, you can say, rising power, we need to make sure that we argue, we look after this patients who are affected, and this patent or evergreen patents that these companies are trying to make. Evergreen patent basically means even if you have just added a little bit to your earlier medicine. So it's like iPhone or any other phone, any other company, right? The iPhone 1, then you have 2, then you have 3. So it's not a sort of radical innovation. It's a sort of incremental, gradual innovation that you are doing. No doubt early on you used to have 2 megapixel, now you have 20 or 40 or whatever megapixel you have, right? So it's not something that is out of the blue. It's not something that we have never seen before, right? It is a sort of small upgradation. So evergreen patents means companies, to maximize their profits, they will argue that earlier on they used to give you medicine called X, now they are giving you X1. If you go through edition, you find that just a little bit changes are made, and they want to see it as altogether new product and maximize their profit. So India has rejected this sort of evergreen patents and this sort of tactics by modern or developed countries, big pharmaceutical companies. So at that point of time as well, we have said that it is important not only for India but for other countries. So same thing, we expect from India to take a stand as far as this dilution that we find here. I hope things are clear to you as far as TB is concerned. You find questions every year on this thing, so I thought I should explain it to you in detail. With this, dear friends, if you are preparing for defense exams, then we have got pen drive and tablet courses for defense exams. As you can see on your screen, 6 exams are there. And to find out more about it, check out StudyIQ.com. Of course, you'd be able to download the PDF of today's lecture from my Facebook page, from my Twitter handle, and also from our official Telegram channel. Now, we have these 3 articles which I have clubbed together. I have gone through some articles that you find, or news items that you find on the first page, on the national page of the Hindu, as well as that on regular basis I provide you some economic articles or financial news as well are catered to you from Pink Papers, may it be from Financial Express or Economic Times, right? So I go through this sort of, or Business Standard, I go through this sort of papers as well, as far as news items are concerned, so that preparation or economic aspect of your preparation is up to date as far as current affairs are concerned. Right, so I have clubbed these 3 articles together, and I have found one infographic for you guys. It's there in front of your screen. We'll go through the whole history and this whole timeline of this section 377, and of course we'll discuss some important items associated with it. Very quickly, section 377 was introduced in our country by British government 1861, and this 1861 act was based on Buggery Act of 1533. Buggery basically means associated with anal sex, or this unnatural, so-called unnatural sex. Now, the reason why I have used this so-called unnatural, because I don't want to impose my views whether this thing is right or wrong, right? We all are mature, we all are adult citizens, and we all are educated, right? We are reasonably speaking aware as well, well informed. So it's on us, right, to decide whether this is right or wrong. It all depends, right? Our upbringing, our viewpoints, right? Our education, as far as our experience, and all these things matters, right? So every individual will have various different opinions on this thing. You cannot just have black and white. I strongly believe that you need to, there are so many issues that you don't have answers for, and it's not necessary that all the time you should have answers, right? When we say that, when we fix ourselves in this box that yes, we need to have opinions and answers for everything, then what we are missing is, we are missing that thing that is out of the box, right? So this is very important for innovation, for creativity, for out of the box thinking, for forming opinions and all these things. It is very important that many times we have to leave things on time as well. Only time can tell whether this decision is right or wrong. Now, anyways, let's go through some important milestones as far as this timeline of this 377 is concerned. Back in 2001, this NAS Foundation, filed a PIL to challenge this 377, because as per this 377, if anyone is conducting gay sexual activities or homosexual activities, then those couples or those people will be they can be imprisoned, and they can be charged. Criminal charges will be applied on them. So 2004 High Court dismisses this PIL, but Supreme Court directs this High Court that you need to entertain this PIL. Back in 2008, when central government was asked about its stand on this section 377, what we find is that we find 2 different views coming from central government. The health ministry was saying that we should not criminalize people who are gay or belong to LGBT. When I say gay here, I'm talking about LGBTQ, right? So it's difficult for me to, every time explain this thing that I'm talking about. This, just take, when I say gay here, I'm taking this LGBTQ community, right, altogether. So health ministry said that if we look at them as criminals, then we are not going to cover them under this AIDS program, and AIDS so many people will get affected by AIDS after that. And the other thing, you can also say that people will not get the benefit of this AIDS program if we treat them as criminals. Home Ministry was saying that if we decriminalize, if we don't see them as criminals, then we are somewhere promoting criminals or the sexual crimes against minors and animals and other things. Back in July 2009, Delhi High Court said that decriminalizing or this criminalizing, decriminalizing is a thing, and if 2 adults are, engaging themselves with this, if they are having consensual homosexual relationship, then there is no harm in it. This was a stand taken by Delhi High Court. Around same time, what we find is that a thing that is sadly not mentioned here, but anyways, we are analyzing it here, so let's talk about it. Around same time, in late 2000, Election Commission of India came out with this plan that now the category, sex category that you find in this ID card, you'll have male, female, and a third gender. right? So on one side, what we find is that government is, accepting third gender. On the other side, what we find is that if you can be a third gender, but if you are found having, sexual relationship with a third gender, or if you are having homosexual relationship, then you'll be behind the bar. So it was a bit of controversy or controversial stand of government. 2010, various different religious groups challenged this Delhi High Court's verdict in Supreme Court, and 2013 Supreme Court bench said that the stand of Delhi High Court is wrong. It is going to reinstate this criminality here with 377, and if government wants to take a stand, then they can, right? It is the job of parliament whether to decide whether they want to delete it or want to stick with this law of 377. Now 2014 Supreme Court quashes this NAS review petition, curative petition last recourse, that the curative petition files against this NAS petition order voices action 377 and 6 individuals. And in 2014, National Crime Records Bureau starts collecting this data under section 370C. And what we find in February, a bench of CJITS, then CJITS Thakur, and Justice A.R. Dave and Justice J.S. Kehar said that all these curative petitions will be looked after by Constitutional Bench. What we find here, that central government said that it is on, it is ready to go with the stand taken by Supreme Court. And finally, what we find in 6th September, Supreme Court rules that consensual gay sex is not a crime. Now, two important decisions coming from Supreme Court played a very important role as far as this 6th September stand taken by Supreme Court is concerned. The first, the first one is National Legal Service Authority 2014, a case concerning the rights of transgender people. The court ruled that there could be no discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And the second one is this privacy, right? Justice K.S. Puttaswamy 2017's privacy case. A 9-judge bench ruled that sexual orientation is a facet of privacy and constitutionally protected. So these two important stands taken by Supreme Court in recent past played a very important role in reaching to this conclusion that consensual gay sex is not a crime. Now, if we go through this chart here, what we find is that cases against these homosexual couples were going up, and Uttar Pradesh accounts for 46% of all the cases under 377 in our country back in 2016. Now, I hope things are clear to you. This is a whole big timeline. That's what you find here in this article as well, this right to love. And if you go through these 3 articles, you find that at various different points they have talked about this timeline. The good thing is that we have gone through it right from in a sort of chronological order. Now, what we find in this article, a couple of items here, it's social morality cannot you can say, overthrow a constitutional morality. Very important point here. So what we're trying to understand here is that what constitution is saying. If constitution is saying that you cannot discriminate anyone based on their sexual orientation or their sex, you cannot based on sex, you cannot discriminate people, then that's it. Society may say yes or no, but constitution is the thing that we need to follow. The other thing is that I find 2 important points here, both of them coming from Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra. One, he talks about this doctrine of non-retrogression. That means once a particular right is recognized, then you cannot revoke or eliminate that right. A very important point for you to understand. And the second one is that this Mishra's opinion lays emphasis on transformative constitutionalism. That means treating the constitution as a dynamic document that progressively realizes various rights. Rather, it's a sort of thing that will walk with, or that will keep itself. Constitution is a document that will try to keep itself. This transformative constitutional means it will try to keep itself up to date with changes that are taking place in a real world. Here you have a couple of quotes from this bench. Judges have took various different stands here. So you can of course download this and go through it. And last, sexually equality affirmed. This one, it's two important figures that I find here. As per this Kinsey report on sexuality, around 10% of Indian population is not exclusively heterosexual. So that means 100 million Indians may have been affected, may have been freed by this Supreme Court's stand. And two important things, that no political party, right, was ready to support this this whole campaign, because most of the time what we find that religious organizations and groups are against gay or homosexual activities. And if parties are supporting this sort of issues or stands, then they will have a sort of issues with religious groups. And the second is that even liberal intelligentsia, right, sensible or intellectuals as well, where not all of them, we haven't witnessed big numbers of intelligent people supporting this thing. So all important items are covered as far as this 3 articles and some news items are concerned. Now we'll talk about this one. It's about blasphemy law. Here the thing is, dear friends, we have IPC section 295A, and as per this section 295A, if someone is purposefully for deliberate and malicious reasons, if someone is trying to hurt someone or someone's religion by destroying their worship places, or or torning their books and other things, religious holy books, then as per IPC, imprisonment can extend up to 3 years. Now Punjab government came out with this section 295AA, and what Punjab government wants is that the maximum punishment should be life imprisonment. Now the thing is, you go through this yes no, and it's complicated opinion, but if you go through it, you will find yes no, they are talking about many things, but the thing that we need to keep in our mind, that's what I believe, is that this region of Punjab, right, Punjab is a land where secularism is not an ideology but interfaith born homie, because it is this region where we find we term it as cradle of Hinduism. As far as Sikh majority area right is concerned, you find that people from all faith have always lived here with peace. If we go back to the history of Sri Guru Granth Sahib, right, and I have gone through one book called Sufism, the Essence of Islam. I forgot the name of the author. A couple of years ago I have read this book, and one interesting thing that I came across is that do you know that the first brick of this golden temple, right, was laid by a Sufi saint. We find that nearly 50% of these verses that we find in Sri Guru Granth Sahib are coming from Hinduism, are coming from Islam. You find a touch of Sufism as well. If I'm not wrong, Guru Nanak was he used to be his company was a Sufi saint. So at that point of time, this division that we find, it was, I have said this thing, that when you enter a garden, you find various different flowers. Flowers are the finest that nature creates. And so in the same way, religions, various different religions, there should never be a point of clash. In fact, there should be bridges that connect various different people. We are land of Ashoka, and if you go through this inscriptions of Ashoka in Junagadh, right, because I'm from Gujarat, I have been there, I know this thing that it's clearly written over there. Means of course it's difficult for us to understand that language, but what we decipher out of it is that Ashoka has said that if you are throwing stones at someone else's religion, then you are damaging your own religion, more than that person's religion. So what do we find here? We find this incidence of some miscreants. They are trying to create this sort of troubles in various parts of our country. So it's not them, it's not those miscreants. I blame all of us. I blame all those people who are not taking a stand on this sort of things. Many times we say that it is divide and rule. It was all because of British we find this sort of things. But Britishers, right, they did this thing, or they were able to do this thing was because we were fool enough, to fight with each other based on religion. And this is the thing that we find even today. So, of course, rules and regulations are important. We have to create a fence to protect our garden, but that does not mean that we can just, stop looking after our garden once we create a fence. We have to work on our garden. Only then we would be able to make it a bit more beautiful, and we have to keep our eyes and ears open so that we don't find intruders coming in our garden and destroying it. And when I say garden, I'm talking about society, of course. Then you have this piece of land. It's not that important, but anyways, very quickly, it's associated with South Africa, apartheid law. White people used to be treated nicely, and black and colored people were not treated nicely. Pre-independence Africa, then we saw Nelson Mandela, and after this freedom, it was decided that land will be distributed. With white land will be distributed in black community, right? And what we find here is that white people are 9% of the population of South Africa, but they have 73% of commercial agricultural land with them. So distribution is going to take a bit of problem because elections are just around the corner, and apart from that, South Africa is struggling with this. Unemployment rates are high, business is going down, and things like that. So that's everything. And World Bank has said that unequal distribution is one of the main reason, right? Second important reason, apart from the skill deficits, the skill deficiency that we find in South Africa, one of the main reason why we find this poverty in South Africa. Important news, industry must lift PSLV output. This has been said by Dr. Sivan, who is chief of this ISRO. He said that he needs more support from industry so that we can launch as many satellites as possible every year, not only for us but for other countries as well. 2+2, we have talked about it many a times. Dear friends, you know that Defense Minister and External Affairs Minister of our country and their counterparts, India and USA, basically had this big meeting, and we have signed COMCASA, and it has been agreed that the main thing that you find in COMCASA is that imagine you find a Chinese submarine, a USA spots a Chinese submarine in the Strait of Malacca. So on real-time basis, we will be informed as well. So this will improve our coordination, and of course we can look after this Indo-Pacific region's security. Apart from that, you find other items here which we have already discussed, and it's not going to be that difficult. We are going to have this joint tri-service military exercise on Indian coasts in 2019, right? Make in India and producing things in India, and all these things have been discussed. Then India to seek ease of workers movement at WTO with the products. You export things from your country to other countries. Then why not allow people from our country to work in other countries? This is a stand that is taken by India as far as this WTO is concerned. No barriers, alternative fuels, CNG and ethanol, and bio CNG under consideration. Government has said that it is getting rid of all those hurdles like taking permissions and other things as far as hybrid as well as e-vehicles are concerned, because we want this industry to flourish, and we want to see private players, flourishing in our country. As far as the CNG is concerned, which is a bit cleaner compared to petrol and diesel, we have only 1,424 stations in our country. We need more of them, and we have seen that nowadays more and more people are going for switching over to CNG. The more the availability, the better it is going to be for the whole world. As far as this Lancet report is concerned, more and more people are living inactive life. These are your vocabularies. This is the answer, right? This green portion that you find here are European Union members who are part of Schengen Agreement. Schengen stands for this abolition of this border or this hurdle. So if you are a French citizen, if you want to go to Germany, then you don't have to take visa or anything. You can just take your car, and they have very good road connectivity, so you can go from one country to another country without any hurdle. Something that takes place between India and Nepal. Can you give me the name of this region here, this region that you find in a bit of blue shade? And give me the name of the countries who are part of this region. Very important. And this is your answer. All of them is the answer. 2 MCQs for you guys. That's everything. Please make sure you hit the like button. Pass your comments and your answers, right? And I have a question for you. Can you give me the name of the city in which this upcoming United Nations General Assembly meeting is going to take place? Stick your answer in the comment section. Enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.